Questions? Go ahead. Or do you want me to? Okay, there's Catherine. Tell us what you're doing.
Well, I'm interviewing my great grandmother. I don't really know everything yet, Mom.
Okay, well that's what we're here for. Find out. You're gonna start with the easy questions, right?
Okay. So, the full name first.
Yeah. Start with the easy stuff.
So, what's your full name?
What's what?
Your full name.
Marion, Marion, Elizabeth. My maiden name was Farr, Farr, but my married name is Raish, Raish.
So, Catherine, you have the same middle name, or your middle name is Elizabeth too.
Yeah. Well, my middle name is Elizabeth. Her middle name is Elizabeth. Yep.
What's your middle name? Abigail. Abigail? Where'd that come from?
It just went with Francis.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah.
So,
You have to talk about it.
If you want, why don't you move your chair over too? That might be better. Then I can get both of you in the video.
okay.
Because then I don't have to do this. We can edit this.
You have the knowledge
Yeah, and the software.
and the technology.
Okay, move it a little bit closer till it's almost touching the chair. There you go. Now I can see you both. Okay.
So, what's your birth date?
My birthday,
Yeah.
July 12th, 1919.
Ooh.
So, where were you born and raised?
I was born in San Diego, California, and I lived there through high school. Then I went to the state of Nebraska to college. And after I graduated from college, I got married. And your grandpa, Howard, was in the Navy. And he was stationed at Pearl Harbor.
What did you go to school for when you went to college?
Oh, I was a biology major.
Okay, cool.
I really, that wasn't what I thought I was going to be.
What did you want to do?
I really didn't have something I was wild about. I probably thought maybe something in, I wasn't really into something. But I had never had a lab course.
Oh.
And so I signed up for botany and biology. And the first day in lab, when we put a blade of grass under a microscope and I saw these little green chlorosills, I was hooked.
Cool.
And then after my first year, I was asked if I would like to help the teacher who did the lab work. And I spent 3 years as a lab assistant.
Oh, awesome. That's cool.
But I took lots of different, the way we did, as I remember, there were, I don't know how many different courses. And you took so many units from so many, so you had a wide, I had taken Spanish in high school, so in college I took German.
Oh.
Ich kann Deutsch sprechen, aber nicht gut.
Oh, good for you.
Okay.
And then when I decided I was interested in biology, and I hadn't had much background in that, then I learned Greek. because that's the basic of so many,
Science.
yes.
Yeah.
And my first day in class, the professors asked each of us, of course there were only 5 in the class,
Wow.
what our background was. And I'd never taken Latin. And he said, oh, the last student who tried to take Greek without Latin flunked the course.
Oh no.
So I showed him and I got an A.
I love it.
And of course now, Greece is a place I like.
Yeah.
The
The picture?
the blue oceans of Greece.
Oh yeah, that's pretty. Did you speak Greek when you went there?
Well, not really. I have classical Greek.
Okay.
Speak kind of sidewalk slang, but I have been to Greece 5 times.
Oh, cool.
And it is just, to me, it's where we got our start as a society.
Yeah.
And all of these wonderful little islands,
So pretty. I would love to go there someday.
well, it's worth a trip. I'm a firm believer in letting the kids study in other countries if possible.
Yeah.
They've messed everything up now.
Yeah, how true.
Maybe I should film you.
Sorry, I'm talking and laughing. Okay, you hold it. He's the videographer for all plays. Oh, what's the next question she was gonna ask you?
Your relation to me, which I kind of already know,
Yeah, you kind of know how you're related.
Yeah.
through you, and then Grandma,
Yeah.
and then to her.
Yep,
All the girls,
yep, all the girls.
all the way back.
Mhm.
Girls rock.
That's right.
Yeah. So then to World War II questions. What were your feelings when the war broke out?
Well, that particular day, it was home alone.
Are you talking about the Pearl Harbor? Okay.
Because we weren't involved in the war before then, right?
Right.
World War II, the Americans weren't really until that day.
Yeah, that was when America got involved.
Grandpa Howard was attached to, now I forget things, but anyway, a carrier. And the day after Thanksgiving, 1941, there was a group that went out. The carrier had the pilots who were going to Wake Island, and they took off. And of course, they should have been home. The 7th was a Sunday. They should have been home Friday, but they weren't. But that's okay. I found out later they'd been delayed by bad weather and couldn't refuel and things. But they got a shock when they flew in to land in Pearl Harbor, and they got shot at.
Oh wow. So were you in Hawaii?
Oh yes.
Okay.
After we got married, I went there because he was stationed there
Oh, so what year did you get married?
for 1941.
So that was when the war started, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
But we had 6 months of real Hawaii. Nobody had any money, and you walked everywhere, and there were only 3 hotels at Waikiki Beach.
oh wow. That's a while ago.
You know, now it's wall-to-wall, high-rise, fancy apartments. It's horrible. And I should tell you that the Raishes always did some strange things. The first place we lived in Hawaii was in the kitchen.
In a kitchen?
In the kitchen.
Like in somebody's house?
Yes. I could stand in the middle of the floor, wash the dishes, cook the food.
Did you
And-
sleep in there too?
Yes,
So make the bed and.
I could do the whole thing. There weren't a lot of houses for the military. They were still building things. And there were lots of young couples who lived in the Army and Navy WWII. Had a single room. You
Okay.
can't raise a baby that way.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
So, somebody always knows somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a chance to live this kid.
You need your water?
Now, it was a two-story house. And upstairs, I think there were 4 bedrooms and a bathroom that everybody used. And about the same downstairs, and there was a big living room where there was a refrigerator, and anybody who lived there could keep fruit and juices.
Mm-hmm.
But we could cook, because I had a stove.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask what everyone else did when they wanted to make food. Did they go into your room?
Oh no, they had to go out and find a place to eat.
Oh, okay.
And I really don't remember a lot about the people who lived there, because most of them were single men who worked as civilians out of Pearl Harbor,
Okay.
working on the ships and so on. And so they got up early and took off to work, and
You just didn't see them.
no,
So when you got married, the war was already underway, but America wasn't involved.
that's right.
So before you got married, did you even think about the war?
We were aware of things, particularly when some of the men who worked on to send stuff to Japan, they wouldn't load the ships with metal and stuff. They used to send things to Japan, and Japan recycled it. And there was a lot of fuss about that.
Okay. But you weren't too worried about it at the time?
No, not really.
But then you married Grandpa, who was in the Navy.
Yes.
Now, I heard he was in the Merchant Marines, but is
No.
that part of the Navy? No?
No,
Okay, it's the Navy, okay.
the Navy. And much of the time, in the early days, he was on a carrier with the airplanes.
Wow.
But he did get stationed ashore, and we were fortunate that he didn't have to sail off to fight the war as it went along.
Oh, okay.
He worked at headquarters somewhere doing something.
Don't even know, but it was top secret.
Yeah, right. Well, and then somewhere in 1942, like the middle of the year, I don't remember now if I got a phone call or a letter, would I be interested in a job? Of course, the first thing they did was take all the women and kids and send them back to the mainland.
So when they bombed Pearl Harbor, you were there.
I was there.
And so the airplanes were flying over, dropping bombs, and you were like...
And I heard the famous words, "The rising sun is painted on the wingtips."
You heard, was that on a loudspeaker or the radio?
It was on the radio.
Wow.
And the rest of the day, they were seeing people and asking for doctors and nurses, and
Wow.
it was a pretty wild time.
And you'd only been married for
6 months.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't even see Howard or hear from him for several days.
So you didn't know anything if he was.
I didn't know where he was or what was happening.
Oh, wow.
But I got a postcard that they were okay, they'd refueled and they'd gone out to hunt.
Hunt Japanese?
Yeah, but of course they didn't know which direction the Japanese had gone out and went in the wrong direction.
Oh.
But finally, I think it was about a week after the war, that he was allowed to come home only in the daytime.
Oh.
And for the rest of the war, every time there was some kind of something going on, they wouldn't be allowed to be off the base
Okay.
and go home and spend the night.
So
They
you're
could
just
come
like,
to-
see ya.
Yeah, right.
So you were there when it was bombed, and then they sent all the wives back to the mainland, and then they
But
got
not
you a
her.
job?
Not her.
No, but not you?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I personally think they lost my name somehow.
Leave it to the government.
Connection.
Well,
Yeah?
I didn't want to go home. What would I want to go home for? This was where my home was.
Yeah, and you wanted to be near your husband, and
Yeah. And we lived in several different places after that, but eventually we had housing, Navy housing outside the main gate to Pearl Harbor,
okay.
and lived there for 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Mom, talk about how it was right after the bombing with the white, or the blackout, and how you couldn't go out after dark.
You didn't go out after dark, and you had to be careful where you went and what you did.
Was it military police everywhere, or?
Oh, yeah. And all the windows had black
Oh, yeah.
tar paper on.
Yeah. So
And
they
you
couldn't
didn't
see
go
you.
out after dark.
Yeah, because they wanted to make sure that they couldn't find you and bomb you.
Right,
Okay.
and the automobiles had little shields on the headlights that made the headlights go only down to the ground, so they couldn't be tracked as easily.
Oh.
Well, anyway, as I say, I don't remember whether I got a letter or a phone call asking if I'd be interested in a job. I wore a uniform and worked for the Army.
Traitor?
Before there were women in uniform other than nurses.
Oh, wow. So you're one of the first, huh?
And they couldn't pay us through the Army, so we were civil servants.
Oh. But you wore a uniform.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
And boy, we had to swear we would never mention the word radar.
Top
I worked
secret.
in a
You're gonna die
radar-
now.
No,
No?
we didn't. Nobody knew. They thought we were hostesses on airliners or something.
Oh, wow.
And what it was a filter center. All of the radar bases on the island fed information into this room. And then we figured out what it was all about. We tracked every plane that came in or went out.
Oh. That was like an early air tower control or air control.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And so,
How much time did you spend doing that? Did you go every single day, like 5 days a week, or?
there were 4 groups of women, and we worked 6 hours out of every 24.
Oh. So did you always have the same shift?
No, every 3rd day we changed the shift.
Oh.
So it's a wonder I ever learned to sleep,
Yeah.
because you were constantly kind of
Shifting.
moving around.
Oh, that would drive me nuts. Wow. So how many years did you do that for?
All right, I was there 3 years. You could not work there if you had any minor children.
Oh,
Because of these weird,
schedules.
Hours.
Yeah.
it wasn't any place for a mother to be when
Uh-huh.
she had kids at home.
Yeah, that would be really, especially if you also had a husband who was in the Navy or, you know.
Yeah,
Wow.
and many of the first people who worked there were Army and Navy wives.
Oh.
And then as the husbands got sent out, they had to go home because they no longer had a place. You know, the husband's gone south to fight the war, so
Yeah.
you go back to the States.
Oh, wow. So you worked there until you moved back to San Diego? Or
Okay,
was my mom born in Hawaii?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Oh.
no, we went back after the war was over.
Oh.
But once during the war, I was on a cruise ship and I went back to the mainland and back. And this cruise ship did not go in a convoy. We were all alone in the Pacific.
Does that mean that you were prone to getting attacked?
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
Wow.
here's this thing over there. Do you see, clear at the end of this, here,
What are
here.
we looking at?
This picture?
Look on the back of it.
Thanksgiving dinner?
Oh, that was the, yeah, she was on the ship.
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
this was what you ate on the cruise ship. Okay, here, get a picture of this. Nice, they fed you Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, that was something.
See,
Now, did
I
they-
was traveling under military orders.
Oh.
I
So,
was allowed a month off after I had worked 2 years.
oh, nice.
And so I went back to San Diego to see my family and tell them I was okay.
Oh, yeah, but they were happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Now, was this a ship that also had prisoners of war and did your?
Yes. When we landed in San Francisco, we were met by every government outfit there was because there were suspicious Japanese being sent to the mainland because they didn't want them in Hawaii.
What a cruise.
Yeah, it wasn't really a cruise.
And
It was just a cruise ship.
there were wounded soldiers and there were prisoners of war. There, you know, name it. And the stories that went around were pretty good.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
So we landed in San Francisco. See, and this venue was for Thanksgiving. We left just before Thanksgiving, so I had Thanksgiving dinner in the middle of the ocean somewhere. When it was time to come home again, they telegraphed orders to me. I was to leave San Diego and go clear up to Seattle to catch a ship to come back.
Oh, wow.
I had Christmas dinner that year on a train somewhere,
Between San Diego and Seattle?
and we left Seattle just at midnight on New Year's Eve.
What a party. All the holidays.
You better not be on deck after dark and have any kind of a light.
Oh, yeah.
That's what, yeah, the ship coming and going was all dark, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, was it the same ship or was it a different one?
It was the same ship
Oh,
because that was the cycle they were making.
that was what it did.
But
Okay.
I have been on other ships of the Lurleen outfit.
Okay. So they commandeered the cruise ship and made it for the
Yes, they put some more bunks in the rooms.
okay.
If it used to be for 2 people, now it was for 4.
Yeah, because there's so much room on a cruise ship.
Yeah. But anyway, but this was a very interesting time. And we were doing work so that the men could go and fight the war.
Right.
And we were trained to do the things that some of them had been doing.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting.
I'm fascinated that they had the women working in the radar room. That was interesting.
the men were working at the radars out,
The outlying radars.
and they phoned in. And when I went to work, I walked into a mountain.
Wow.
It had been where they kept guns and things before.
Like an armory or something?
Yeah. And it was a huge room. And on the floor was a big table with a map of the Hawaiian Islands. And a lot of stuff was done in code and funny things. And we had a system of when the radar kids called and said, I've got a bogey, and it was divided, and you
Had the coordinates,
Yeah.
like B6, like
Yeah,
just like in
right.
the game that you play.
Yeah, warship, battleship?
Yeah, Battleship, yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
Dad's getting it all, yeah.
So it was very interesting. I met all kinds of people.
Were you ever really afraid?
But
Were you ever afraid during
no.
the war at all?
Oh, well, I will tell you. I had a place to stay on this army base. But I also had a husband and a house out at Pearl Harbor. And so, depending on what hours I was working and so on, I drove back and forth, and sometimes I stayed one place, sometimes the other.
Yeah, that would be hard to even have time to see each other.
Well, you left notes on the on the fridge,
That's the equivalent of texting today.
Yeah. and we had a little Model A Ford.
Oh.
And your grandpa, being someone who liked to stir things up, painted it bright red. And the MPs on the gate just were having hysterics. It looked like
Something Japanese?
no, it looked like some kind of a special. But he had a good boss.
Yeah.
What if you were seeing though? It's bright red.
In the dark, they wouldn't be able to see it because it's dark.
But during the day, it would
Yeah,
stand
it would stand out in the daylight.
But when I drove home after a shift, even if it was the middle of the night, I usually went out a back door to the base because I didn't want to get out where the freeway was.
Because that would be too easy to get hit by a bomb?
Yeah,
Wow.
well, they were not doing much bombing by that time.
Okay.
So one night I got off work just after midnight, and the MP at the gate said, "You live at Pearl Harbor, don't you?" And I said, "Sure." And they said, "There are two fellows here that are hitchhiking home. They've been visiting. Why don't you pick them up when you..." And I did.
Ooh.
Midnight, and here's these two kids.
And you're just driving them as chauffeur?
You know, I wouldn't anymore pick up a hitchhiker.
Yeah.
But in those days, you did things differently.
Yeah. I guess. That's cool.
Now we're going out in the open.
Hmm?
We're not safe out in the open now.
Well, yeah, I guess they only really bombed Pearl Harbor for what, a few weeks, a few days?
Well, just really
that one day.
That one day,
one
basically.
day,
Okay.
because they sunk in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And about I think it was a month, like in January of 42, that Howard took me to dinner aboard the ship out in the harbor, and there was still smoldering stuff all over. It was just awful.
He took you out there for dinner?
Well, aboard the
On
ship.
the ship.
Oh, how interesting. What a date.
It's a great picnic.
Well, Jeff got to see that memorial there in Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty emotional.
Yeah.
Where the dripping oil.
Mm-hmm.
We had a friend who was on that ship. The reason he wasn't killed, his wife had come out just a couple of weeks before, and so he was at home with her when they hit
Oh,
the ship.
wow. And so when Pearl Harbor was bombed, Grandpa was over by which islands?
We were on
Wake.
Oahu.
No, but he was on the Enterprise going to
Coming-
Wake or
He
coming
went
back
to
from
Wake
Wake?
Island with, what's his name?
Some general.
Blake Island?
Wait.
Oh, wait.
See, way out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, yeah.
And of course, when the guys got there, the Japs had already bombed some stuff.
Yeah, they're kind of a little too late, yeah. Wow.
And they didn't stand a chance. I mean, these islands are in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah, when you look at them, yeah.
Don't fall off.
Right there. I can reach him. Yeah.
So, but then, in 44, anyway, I found out I was pregnant, so I had to resign my job,
Okay,
and I was sent home.
okay.
That
So
was your mother.
That's, yeah,
Your mother was born in San Diego,
okay.
because Grandpa came back, and we lived in San Diego for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And so Elizabeth and Martin were both born in San Diego.
Okay.
Well, so was Esther and
We were all
Ella.
born there.
Yeah.
We kind of went back and forth and around.
Well, Jeff's aunt and uncle live in Fallbrook.
Well, I remember you used to stop and see me in Sun City
Yeah.
when you went to Fallbrook to visit.
Yes, and one time when we went there to Fallbrook to visit, we found the house that you lived in Fallbrook. And my mom told me the address. She's like, I think it's here. And I took a picture and sent it to her. And she's like, that's the house. So that was fun.
Yeah, but now, of course, all the avocado trees have been cut down because of the water shortage and stuff.
And houses and yeah. So did Grandpa stay in the Navy all of his career?
20 years.
Okay. That's retirement in the Navy. Yeah. So most of the time though, he wasn't out at sea.
No,
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
the only
He was in
time
the
was the
Korean War,
Korean bit.
Oh, he went in the Korean War too, huh?
Yes,
Did he go on a ship?
yeah,
Okay. How long was he gone for that?
a year and came home and then went back again.
Oh wow, so he went a couple times. Huh?
And my brother was in the army and he was over there.
Oh. Wow, so Grandpa was in 2 wars. And so but luckily it sounds like he was home most of the time.
Yes,
Okay, that's good.
when he had a shore job
Yeah.
and he was a yeoman.
What is that?
They
Yeah.
do the paperwork.
Oh,
He was yeah,
a paper pusher?
but a very important one.
Okay.
Yes, because before he finally quit the Navy, he was, oh dear, what was,
A warden officer, is that what he was?
Warrant?
Yes.
Warden?
warrants.
Warrant?
They're not academy men, but they've been there for a while and they have a lot of pull
Yeah.
with things, but it was like he ran something on a big ship.
Yeah. I know that after he retired, he did all kinds of interesting things.
Oh, yes.
Quite a bunch of stuff. DMV.
Yes.
That was
He
horrible.
gave driver's licenses. He was giving somebody the driving test one time and the guy crossed the railroad track almost right in front of the train. And another time some man had a heart attack when he was giving him a test.
Oh, you feel like you're gonna have a heart attack, but I didn't know people actually had them.
And then when we kept moving out to the country further, and then we got this old building.
Yeah, in Temecula.
Yes. And that was very interesting because the story with Temecula was there were 30 people, 300 people counting the dogs or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And we lived there to see it become a city.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, they were doing redevelopment.
Okay.
When they went out and here was a plot of land that nobody lived on lately, well, we'll sell that to the guys building houses.
Developers. Mm-hmm.
And we didn't think that was very nice. We were part of a group that sued the county
Mm-hmm.
of all this folderol.
Did they have to stop? Did you win?
Well, sort of. Because at the same time, there was a push to incorporate and make a city. It was an unincorporated county
Right.
before.
Mm-hmm.
And we figured by this time we knew before long we were going to move on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That if it was going to be a city, let those people.
Figure it out.
Yeah, but we actually did go to court and got our money back that we had paid to
Oh.
fight this.
Okay, well you won that much anyway.
Yeah.
Cool.
Catherine, do you have any
You should
more?
let Catherine ask
Sorry,
questions.
sorry. I took over.
You did.
Did we answer your questions before you even asked?
Kind of, I guess.
Well, ask him anyway. We can recap.
Do you remember what great-grandpa's role was in the war?
Well, he did a lot of different things. So, when you're in the Navy, you do what they tell you to do, and I can't remember anymore the different groups that he was a part of.
But mainly was he always like the
He was always,
secretary, for lack of a better term?
Yeah.
Yeah, paper pusher.
Mm-hmm.
For the guy that ran the ship or close.
I was always very curious. One time he was sent to another building or another outfit, and the only people there was some high-ranking man and a typewriter and Howard and a bunch of blank paper. And whether they really planned some big operation, I always thought that's what they did. But we didn't discuss those anymore than Howard knew what I did.
Oh, interesting.
See, he couldn't have gotten in where I worked because you had to have a special clearance.
And you couldn't go to where he worked.
That's right.
Oh, so you didn't really know much.
No, and we, you know the old saying, loose lips sink ships. So we never discussed things like that.
But at least one time he was in a room with a general and a typewriter and paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not a general.
Oh, what was it?
High-ranking
Well,
official.
an admiral. Only I don't think it was an admiral. I think it was a commander or some kind.
Okay. A boss.
A military officer,
Plan
not-
something.
Okay.
Planning something.
Okay. That's interesting.
Okay, next question.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep you.
I know. Tell me to be quiet.
You can do that, because I'm not going to do that. I think you might have answered this in the long conversation you had with your mom, but how did the war affect your family?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I feel December 7th was the day that changed my life. Because things were never the same after that.
Did you decide not to have children right away because you were doing your work with the government or
Well, I don't
It
know.
was never-
or just never had the opportunity? Yeah.
Yes, I don't think it was particularly discussed
Okay.
in any way.
Okay.
But I know today, young people, I think they're in a bind when they look to see what their future may or may not be.
Yeah.
And you better think twice if you want to bring children into a world that's falling apart.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you were at just the right age, you know, like
Yeah,
to have an important role to play and not have to put your children at risk or.
yeah. See, after the war was over and we went back and we lived in San Diego, and that's where your mother was born. And then we went back to Hawaii. And we were supposed to be there for 3 years, but they did a reduction in force and sent us back after a year. And that's when we all got to see a real volcano erupt.
Ooh,
Mauna Loa was erupting then.
cool.
And they took a ship and took us all over there so we could see it.
Would they do that today? That's cool.
In the daytime, it was just smoke, but at night you could see this red path coming down.
Pretty.
Okay, next question.
I'm trying not to talk.
Oh,
I'm just keeping everybody on
Yeah.
course here, make sure.
You're the
that
director.
Catherine will have, yeah, all the answers she needs.
So this is like a 3-in-1 question. What was the scariest, saddest, and happiest moment of the war for you? Not all at once, obviously.
I don't know that I had a really scariest moment other than hearing the rising sun is on the wingtips.
Yeah.
And not knowing where Daddy was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about when the lady went into labor?
Huh?
When the lady had her baby?
Oh,
Went into
yes.
labor, that's pretty exciting.
There was a lady who lived in the same house we did. I think she lived in the garage. And she was just a kid. I don't think she was over 18.
Wow.
And she was pregnant. And the day of December 7th, then there had been a couple who lived upstairs in this house, and they'd had a child and had to move because there's no way in a bedroom
Yeah.
that you can raise a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And she was an older woman and really kind of worried about things. So on the afternoon of December 7th, I had a lady with a new baby and one that I wasn't sure how long it would be before she'd have hers. And this older woman was hysterical. And
Because of the bombing?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, they came and we kind of huddled together, and all you could get on the radio was announcements about mysterious people at the waterworks, or would the doctors please report to the hospital, and all this kind of stuff. So then, a few weeks after that, when Shirley, at 10 o'clock at night, Marion, I think I'm having a baby. Well, I didn't know much about having kids. I hadn't had any yet.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother was enough younger that that didn't count. Anyway, we called the Red Cross, we called everybody we could think of. Nobody would come to help get her to hospital.
Oh.
But these guys that worked in the shipyard, one of them had a car, but he'd lost the keys. You had to
Hotwire it.
yeah. So we're out in the street at about 11 o'clock at night, and the neighbors are yelling, "Turn off the lights." They had little things. They got the car started, and Howard drove, and we put Shirley in the car. Fortunately, there was a hospital not too many blocks away,
Oh, good.
so we didn't have to wander around. And as we pull up in front, some nurse comes out and says, turn off that car, don't you know this is a hospital, that's too noisy. Well, we had never gotten home.
You have to hot wire it again.
So we just left Shirley, and I think her baby came within an hour.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's excitement.
I was just fortunate Daddy was home to.
You had to hot wire a car?
So what were the other parts of that question?
And what was the happiest then? Yeah, the scariest, the happiest, and the
Saddest.
saddest.
Well, I'd say some of the happy days were when I was able to see people I'd known in college, because the draft had picked up all kinds of people. And they all knew I lived in Hawaii and would have a phone number or something. And every once in a while there'd be some kid I'd gone to college with. And so that was nice to be able to see them.
And know that they were okay.
Yeah. I don't know about
The saddest?
huh?
The saddest?
Yeah. I don't know what that would be.
Well, war is pretty sad.
Yeah.
Did you know personally some of the sailors that were killed?
Yeah.
So that would be sad. I mean, to hear people you
Oh,
knew.
and in Hawaii, Oahu is the main Honolulu, and that's where all the bases and everything are. But a place to go when you had a few days off was down to the Big Island, to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And there was when we go down there, we rent a car before we got off the plane, and then we drive to the other side. And there was a nice little place there, the 2-story motel kind of place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of people went when they had a few days vacation.
So was it not too difficult to get an airplane ride from one island to the other?
Was it a military plane or?
Well, I thought I used, but I think
But
that,
they blacked out the windows, whatever it was.
oh, yes,
Yeah.
I had my first airplane ride. You got on the plane, and there were black things on all the windows, and after a while you heard a motor and things kind of bounced, and then after a while, you guess you landed, and you got out, you were there, and you hadn't seen a thing. But they were so afraid
Yeah,
of what might be giving away.
right.
Anyway, Hart and we never could go together because he had his way and I had mine. We did go to Big Island for a long weekend.
Oh, that's nice.
And one night at dinner, the waiter asked if we would mind sharing our table. They were very busy. And so a very pleasant gentleman ate with us, and of course, you know, where are you from, what do you do? He'd gone to the same college I did, but I
Wow.
graduated 2 or 3 years earlier,
Oh,
and he worked for the government, had something to do with sugar, and went all around in there. And his wife lived in Honolulu,
okay.
and later we would meet with them.
Oh,
And then if there were other fellows who showed up from college, we had a nice little time. But of course, once the war was over, everybody scattered.
oh, interesting. So that would be a sad thing, actually. I mean, happy that the war is over, but sad because, you know, all the people that you know are
Yeah,
interesting. I never would have thought of that. I always just imagined that war's over, yay! But then that community feeling that you had also
yes.
goes away.
Okay, what's next?
Where were you and how did you feel when you heard the war was over?
When we heard that it really was over, downtown was just haywire. and screeching and whooping and horns honking.
Is this in San Diego?
No,
You were still in,
Oh, this was still in Hawaii.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because when did the war actually end? 45?
somewhere along in there.
So you were still in
you were
Hawaii.
still there.
Okay.
Was Daddy with you or was he on the ship?
No, he was there.
He was there too? How did they announce it?
I don't remember. Well, it was interesting when you lived in Hawaii because we didn't have direct radio with the mainland. Jack Benny and all the programs that you listened to were taped on the mainland
Oh.
and shipped over, and then about 2 weeks later, they'd play them locally.
So you guys were always behind the times.
Yes, we were.
So maybe you didn't find out about the war ending till a little bit
Oh,
later?
well, you found out a lot of things. Yes, there were things that you found out, but as far as really doing anything,
Yeah.
there were, at Waikiki, there were only 3 hotels. The Pink Lady, which is the Royal Hawaiian, and the Moana, which was down at the other end, and then one up, a very small place called Hawaii. And on Saturdays, at the Moana Hotel, where there was a banyan tree, there would be music and Hawaiian hula dancers, and it was sponsored by, who made cameras and stuff.
Kodak?
Yes, and so you could take your pictures if you were a tourist and have them all made up, and it was quite a place to go on Saturday afternoon.
Wow, that's fun. So you were there when you got the news that the war was over. Did
Oh,
you
yeah.
did you go downtown too?
Well, I can remember being somewhere where they were having and just before the war, at that, what's the holiday before Christmas?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They were building a new Sears Roebuck or something, and it was going to have 2 stories, and one of the things that go up the stairs,
Escalator?
Oh, the escalator or the elevator?
no, not the escalator, and there was a sign, you couldn't get on the escalator if you weren't wearing shoes.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because people would go barefoot a lot, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So were you at home when you heard the war ended and then you went to town, or were you already in town and people started yelling about it? I can't remember.
Exactly. But now some stray bombs hit fairly close to where we lived at the time in this kitchen, because there was a little area where there were a bunch of 2-story buildings, and the ground floor would be a little shop, and then the families lived upstairs. Which reminds me, that's the only time in my life I ever charged groceries. And at that time, I can't remember exactly when we were married and made home in Hawaii, how much he got, whether it was $87 or $92, but roughly $90 a month.
That was his pay?
That was his pay. We paid $30 to rent our little kitchen. My grocery bill was usually $30, and that gave us $30 for everything else.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I can, yeah.
A third.
Yeah.
And I started a checking account and a savings account. Even if I only saved $1, I saved something
Mhm.
every month.
Yeah. Savings, yeah.
You say first, not what's left at the end, because
Yeah.
there isn't any.
Never is.
Okay,
Other questions?
the war has ended, now what?
Well, this is like an afterthought. Like, did Grandpa say anything about the training that he had or the food that he ate?
Oh,
Well, I made a mistake once. He didn't like it if he came home and I said, what do you want to eat? I was supposed to have dinner ready.
Oh, right, yeah.
So one time he went to the cooks on the ship and got some menus, 50 pounds of potatoes.
the recipes that go with the
Here,
menu.
these things.
So he brought it to you, he's like, just make me this. You're like,
Yeah,
50 pounds of potatoes coming right up.
and I always figured this little place I bought groceries, I'm sure they were a little Japanese mom and pop store, that they figured if I bought 2 pork chops, then the ship was in. And if I only bought 1, see, I was home alone.
Oh, they would know a lot about what was going on in people's lives.
Oh, sure.
Do you ever say whether he liked the food on the ship?
Well, I don't know, maybe guys always grudge around the food.
You just don't pay attention. Was he already in the Navy when you married him?
Yes, he'd been in for 4 years.
Okay.
See, at the time
That's
he
unusual, she
graduated
usually
from
doesn't
high
come out.
school, we were in kind of a depression, and there weren't too many jobs. And you could join the Navy and you got $21 a month and a place to sleep and 3 meals a day.
So, felt like a good idea.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, so he basically joined the Navy because of the Depression, but then you guys got married and he...
and as long as you got 10 years in, why not stay and get 20?
And get the full retirement benefits, yeah. Anything else? On the backside, was there something we had to ask?
On the backside,
That's the stuff we already did.
the tribute, which I don't know if I did this or not. Was there training that Grandpa did?
Oh, well, you all had to go through boot camp. You go where he trained in San Diego, other people trained in Great Lakes and all the different places. And there were certain basic things that it didn't matter what your job was going to be.
But he probably, since he wasn't like shooting a gun or anything, so he was trained more in like regulation paperwork stuff.
Yeah,
Now, isn't that what your job ended up being, basically? It's like, does it run in the family? Working for the government, pushing paper.
Yes. Paper, too much paper, government regulations.
Yeah.
You should tell him, and this was when he was out of the service, when you played in, what is the play he was in?
oh,
Mutiny, Kane's
Jane
Mutiny?
Mutiny.
Yeah.
When did he do that? After he retired from the Navy?
When was, see, I don't remember
Well,
when it
when
was.
we were in San Diego, I think he was still in, but they were doing at the theater in the park in San Diego, they were doing this play, and they needed a jury of military men. And I think he was a different, it didn't matter which day he served on the jury, he had a different rank and so on.
Oh.
But he actually was part of the play.
So did he do plays very often?
No.
No? Oh,
That was
okay.
like the only one, wasn't it?
Oh.
Well, Big Bad Mama.
Well, that was a movie.
He was in a movie?
He didn't have any speaking roles, did he?
No, but
That was
he
filmed.
married, what's his name?
Oh, he played the preacher, yeah.
Yeah,
So he was in a movie called Big Bad Mama?
and it was
I've never been
rated
able to
R.
find it.
Oh, it was rated R? Scandalous.
I've heard of it.
Oh, you've heard of it?
Yeah, wasn't it Angie Dickinson?
Yeah, Angie Dixon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting. Now, I heard, did he take his cars and stuff into movies and be extras?
sometimes.
Okay.
You see the old cars, there, now and then there was something and they needed an old car.
Yeah, he always had them.
Yeah.
Now, my mom told me, I don't know if this is really true, my mom told me that she would go in parades with him on the old like fire engines and stuff,
Yeah.
and they had to chew gum in case the radiator sprung a leak.
Oh,
Right.
Is that
That's a
true?
true
It
story.
is? Okay. I was like, are
We
you
were
just...
going across from San Diego over to, what was across the bay on the,
oh, Catalina?
no, we weren't,
Oh.
not that far.
No, not that far.
And the radiator started to leak, so he gave all the kids gum, and they chewed like mad and sealed up the radiator.
That's awesome.
And then one time when we went to Knott's Berry Farm, and they had an arena there with, and a train ran around it. But our car got stuck on the tracks because we couldn't get under this.
They're too tall? Oh, no.
And we had to wait, kept the train waiting.
Uh-oh. At least they could stop for you.
We had, wasn't that when we had the fringe on top, and then on top were like baskets of eggs and, you know,
Was this like a
suitcases,
scene?
I don't know,
Was it
stuff.
actual stuff that you brought, or was it like a scene that you staged?
No, it was actual stuff that,
Okay.
like props, but they weren't with the vehicle.
Oh,
And we
okay.
had to take them off in order to lower it.
And then everybody jumped on the running boards to try and
Get it go lower? Oh, boy. No, so he did the DMV for a while, and then we also had that antique store, or secondhand store, whatever it was. And then did he do any other interesting jobs?
Oh, he was an auctioneer.
Oh.
He went to
yeah.
auctioneer school.
Mm.
I remember that. I don't know how many auctions he actually did, but
yeah, he and one of his friends went back east to a school that trains auctioneers.
Oh, wow. And he also started his own church, right? And became a
Yeah.
minister? Yeah.
a
Oh,
mail
yeah.
order minister.
A mail order minister? Now, did you ever have more of a job, like a career, after you left the Army?
No, now, I did have a couple of jobs, but they didn't amount to too much. Some friends had a family business, and he did the, whatever it was, and she ran the office. There was not enough work to have two women in the office all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I would go,
Help out.
yeah, and I would go late because I wanted to see the kids in the school, and I came home early.
So that you could be
If
there.
you're not home when they come home, you don't find out things.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
So I worked with her off and on.
Okay.
And then there was a young couple who had a business, and they had 3 little boys, and she was going crazy trying to do business and watch these kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I often filled in there. And they sold piping and sprinklers for people who were planting things. And,
Agriculture.
Irrigation stuff.
Yeah.
but it wasn't really doing anything.
Well, I think it's so awesome that you went and got a degree, and then you worked in all these jobs that weren't really like biology related. That's what I've done. I have a master's in sports medicine, and once I haven't really worked in sports medicine.
Well, you see, when I graduated from college and I went home, I said to my father, I want to go on to medical school. I want to be a doctor, or at least work in this. And he said, and I quote, "You will come home and take your place with the family. You will not go to school anymore."
Oh.
And then I said, well, then maybe I could get a job with a lab somewhere. And he said, and I quote, "I will not have the neighbors say I can't support my family."
Yeah. There was a real stigma against women working and having careers. But why did you choose to go to Nebraska to go to school? What put you
Well,
over?
my father was raised in Nebraska
Okay,
and then came to California.
okay.
And he had always wanted to go to this school.
Oh, but did he get to ever go to
No.
college?
No.
So was he happy to have you go there?
Yeah, and I don't understand why he wanted me to have a college degree and
And not work.
do anything with it.
Yeah, interesting.
But I think, isn't this the male thing?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, maybe it's getting better. Maybe the new generations aren't the same.
Well,
We'll just have to wait and see.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing so much of your story.
Oh, well, thank you for asking me.
Well, and we can, if you have anything else to add, we can record it.
I don't know. There's probably something that I've done as well. See, after Grandpa died, our attorney said, "Marion, now don't just sit around and feel sorry for yourself. We've got everything planned and it was properly done, and you should take a trip." And of course, I had been aware of Greece even when I was a kid in grade school. I had heard of the Trojan horse,
Uh-huh.
and I was fascinated with Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
The things I don't remember learning, but I knew them
Yeah.
when I was little. And so Greece had always been in the back of my mind. And it's nice to have friends who have friends,
Mm-hmm.
because one of my good friends was a friend with a Greek, but born in this country,
Mm-hmm.
who taught art history. And he sometimes took small groups.
A tour. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so he'd never heard of me.
But you had a mutual friend.
Yeah. He lived in San Francisco and I lived down in Southern California. But he was going to take a trip to Greece. And our mutual friend, he trusted her that if I was okay by her.
Then it would be all right.
And it was to be 3 weeks. And then I had talked to a couple of my college friends who were widows, and they thought that sounded neat. So then he let me bring them. Before we left, he either called or wrote to me one day, "Well, wouldn't you like to go to Istanbul? We'll be in the area." That's the most fascinating place.
Wow. Yeah, where should I go before I die? Tell me where I should go visit. Greece
Oh, yes.
and Istanbul.
Or Italy.
Okay.
Because when you can see the statue of David
Oh, yeah.
in person,
Mhm.
it's wonderful that we have pictures and can see movies, but when you stand in the same room, it's different.
Yeah. So you like the art and the culture of these when you go visit these places?
Yes,
And the Aegean Sea is one of your favorites? Now I think you went to Thailand too, right?
yes, I went with Aunt Pat, my brother's wife.
Uh-huh.
There were only 5 of us. She had a friend who had
Travel agency?
huh?
A travel agency?
Yes.
Okay.
This is
And-
her favorite picture.
So there were 4 women, all of us as old as grandmothers. And then one of the women was a family friend with someone from Costa Rica. And this kid, who just graduated from high school, went with us.
Oh, wow.
And if you don't think that like an 18-year-old,
Hanging out with grandmas.
yes, and he was, and some of these young men who come from good families are, you know, pretty good kids. And one day he would be very, you know, gentlemanly, and the next day he was nothing but a stupid
Kid.
and we had fun.
Oh, good.
Maybe we should ask her about growing up.
Yeah, you grew up in California.
Yeah.
And are you the oldest in your family?
Well, there were only two of us.
Okay, you and your little brother. How many years between?
About 4 years.
Okay. So, and then I remember now, somebody lived a really long time. Was it your mother?
No, she was, I think she died in her late 70s.
Okay, was it Grandpa's mother that lived a really long?
Oh, yes, Grandma Cora.
Okay,
She lived into her 90s.
okay. Because you're turning 100. I mean,
I
that's...
know.
And you look great for being almost 100.
So what did your father do
What did my father do?
for a living?
Nothing.
But he didn't want to be accused of not supporting his family.
Well, I think his interest in life were these fraternal organizations.
Like the Masons and
Yes.
Elks. And,
Yeah, and you know, there's still some. And that was his life. He worked with them and he was an officer.
And he was in all of them?
No, but
Oh.
I swear when I was little, I think there was a lodge meeting every night.
Probably.
Well, see, there's the main meeting and that's for the men.
Yeah.
But then there's a women's auxiliary.
Uh-huh.
The men could go to the women's meetings, but they can't go to the men's meetings. Have you
Oh.
heard that before?
I don't go to those things, so I don't know, but it doesn't sound fair.
And so that was really his life.
Did your mother care? Did it bother her?
No, she joined all these things
Okay.
and they went to meetings and that's where their friends were.
Yeah.
And early on, I didn't have a lot of friends because, excuse me, some of their friends were older and I don't remember that they had any friends who had kids my age.
So their kids were gone already?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but he grew up in Nebraska, and somewhere along the line he moved to California. And that's where you were born and raised, and your
Yeah.
brother. Okay. So, and you were the first person in your family to go to college?
Yeah.
Okay. But we have a proud tradition going now of college graduates.
Well, see, college was such a say you have to have a college education, but you should be allowed the chance. It broadens your outlook. Because I took all kinds of courses that had nothing to do with biology.
Yeah, I remember loving those other classes when I was in college, the choir and stuff that wasn't related at all.
We all were in good speech class. So,
Did you do debate?
no, but I found out afterwards that if the biology guys hadn't gotten to me, the debate teacher was going to.
Oh, so everybody had their sights on you. Yeah, they knew we got a smart one coming in. Are we missing any of the good stuff?
I don't know.
We can't get 100 years worth of stories
100
on here,
years and
but
you hit the highlights.
yeah, that's all we can really do. Do you write a journal or keep a record? No? Well, this will be it. And I'm sure in July when people come, they'll be doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you see, that is a picture of Pharaoh's horses. And that's when the Israelites were coming back.
Oh, right.
And when I was a kid, everybody had that picture in their house.
Really?
Either a square one or an oval one.
Well, you got this one.
Yeah, I don't think it was ours. I think it's something we acquired along the way.
From when Grandpa was a seller of
Yes.
stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
stuff. Nicely put.
A seller of stuff. We have those in our town.
I must tell you that I sometimes don't have much faith in the average person. They believe what they want to believe. When we had the old building there in Temecula, somewhere the guys had picked up what would have been one wall and it said, on the air or something. It was from a studio. Then they had records of different things and they put some things on the front porch so you'd hear it outside.
Oh, like speakers. Mm-hmm.
There would be people who would drive in from down south or up in LA or something on the weekend. Oh, we listened to you coming up on the road.
And they thought, and this was the same building that you used for your shop?
Yeah.
So people would come.
And there was no radio station.
Oh, so Grandpa just did that? Grandpa did that. Oh,
Grandpa did that.
he was such a joker.
And you also, like when he sells one of a kind.
Oh, yes. There'd be some item that everybody liked to, they were collecting things. And, oh, well, I'd like 2 of those. Well, I'll see if I have any more.
He'd always keep them in the back.
Or he'd sell it as one of a kind.
And then he'd go get
And
another
then
one
go back and bring out
after
another
they leave. I heard a story once that he gave gerbils to the Ladies' Aid Society or something.
Oh, were they gerbils or guinea pigs?
Oh, that was when we did the guinea pigs. Every year, our old car group had a big wingding at the end of the year. And so one time he got a bunch of shoe boxes. And that was Al, what's his name, that did the science classes in Fall.
Oh, yeah.
And he got a bunch of guinea pigs and put them in these boxes. And then he took them to this very nice dinner. And all the women who were grandmothers or something raised their hand and they all got these little gifts.
And then they opened them at dinner.
And some really, they'd had those little things for several years. They had a place in the backyard and it was
They were a little pet. Others were like, oh,
Others were probably donated.
yeah, right. I remember one time when Grandpa came to visit us, he drove that Volkswagen.
With the
Oh,
face.
And it had the tongue sticking out on it, and I was like, what is that? Like a plastic face on the front with the tongue that stuck out.
On the radiator.
Yeah, and it had air conditioning, and we didn't have air conditioning because we were in Washington, we didn't need it, but when we get in his car, I'd stand in front of the vent and be like,
Yeah, he was a character. He came up with some pretty crazy things.
how was it living with someone with all this character?
you took, what is it, you play the cards you dealt?
Yeah, it was never boring.
No, that's true.
Yeah. And I drove by your house in Temecula, I think it was when Grandpa had his funeral. We saw the mannequin
Yeah.
and the false fronts, and I was like, wow, he really went all out with this.
But then you'd wonder why people would want to come on his land to look at all this.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah,
inviting them.
Yeah, let's make this really attractive and fun and then tell people to get away.
Do you think he just liked to have people come so we could tell him to go away?
I think so.
Yeah.
He was just funny.
Yeah.
But he had such a twinkle in his eyes.
I remember one time when he came to visit, this could have been the same trip, I don't know, but I had to walk down the block to the school bus stop. And I was on my way to school and I was walking by and this old man, it looked like Santa. He had blue eyes and a white beard and a pipe and he said, "Hi, Vicky." And I was like, "Hi." I thought it was, so is that Santa? Is he checking up on me? And I went to school and when I came home, Santa was at my house. It was my grandpa. And he had gotten there late at night and I was asleep.
So you didn't know that?
Yeah. And he had been to the coffee shop already, early. And so he passed me walking to the bus and I was like,
How do you know me?
I know.
Yeah, he did. He used to smoke a pipe sometimes. Then he went to Tipperillo's or something. That's what my kids remember is he'd come and they'd collect the tips off of his Tipperillos. That was
Why?
very disgusting because they were cool. I mean, they were, they were grandpas.
Okay. And he liked to fish.
Yeah. He would come visit us when we'd go fishing.
So when you had spare time, what did you like to do?
Go to Laughlin.
What?
Go to Laughlin.
Oh, that
Go
came a
gamble.
lot later.
Oh, a lot.
Too
later.
much spare time
That
then.
was, that was way, I guess that was after all us kids were gone.
Yeah.
She had lots of, she never had
I
spare
like to
time.
read,
Mm-hmm.
so I had a lot of books.
Yeah.
Still does.
Yeah. Reading is a great pastime.
But sometimes you run out of books.
Do you want to show her? Did you bring some of your art?
Uh-huh.
Catherine likes to draw,
Oh,
and she brought some of her sketches. Here. Got me a pick a pencil.
So, put my favorite ones in here. The ones I think I did the best on. So,
oh,
I drew this one. I usually put dates on them. Sometimes I forget though. This one I was actually doing in PE when we had a tutorial.
You were in PE.
Yeah, but they
It
were.
was a tutorial.
It was a weird thing.
I really
Oh,
never actually do anything. My friend asked me to make a character sheet for this dinosaur because she was doing a challenge with all of our other friends. We would draw it. It's like an information thing, something you would put in the classified folder. It was about Jurassic World, I think. Yeah. I do draw a lot of dragons.
She loves dragons.
Yeah.
I like dragons.
Yep.
I had a bit of trouble with this one because the wings, it's like upside down. Am I supposed to show these to the camera?
That cat is just sprawled out, like twitching.
Oh,
This is a character
Like a
from
big
a roleplay
slug.
that me and a friend are doing. We're doing it over text.
Yeah, she does these role-playing games with her friends, which is, instead of like a board game, it's like you take on a character.
Actually, this one is
Yeah.
over text. This is an over text.
Yes.
Okay, it's a text game, yeah.
Yeah.
the
But
time
we do play Dungeons and Dragons sometimes.
Okay.
And this was during a meeting. I got bored and I drew the person next to me.
Who's that?
It's Nathan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just get bored and so you draw a portrait.
Yeah. Pretty much. But I was really proud of this one because the feet are
Oh,
like
yeah.
natural on it. And I worked hard on the wings and all that.
Yeah, good job.
I have more characters from things that I was doing with Avery. Three characters in a role-playing meeting that I did during rehearsals at drama. This was my character, and then Avery's character, and Casey's character. We would all hang out together during breaks. And then this is just a bunch of people that I drew like suits, cause
Like superhero suits?
yeah,
Fun.
It's, yeah. The backgrounds aren't the best. My favorite one was this one. It's the first one I did.
Catherine's been drawing all of her life.
Not my entire life.
Well, since you could hold a pencil. Well, I hope you're feeling okay.
Well, I hope so too.
I'm glad that we could come see you for your...
Well, I appreciate your changing your plans.
Yeah, I'm just glad that we could see you. Tomorrow we're leaving, so it worked out.
Yeah.
We're staying just over the way in a little cottage Airbnb. So, and the lady who let us in is Connie, who works at the bank, and she knows Esther. And I'm like, oh, I should have known. It would be a place where somebody knew you guys.
Yeah.
He did a bunch of little sketches. Like a character from a book, again. It's a girl who can turn into a dragon.
A girl who can turn into a dragon?
Yes. Like a lot of my stories. All
Yeah.
about supernatural creatures and all that. And this is a little book I wrote.
Oh,
Illustrated myself. It's not the best I did because it's a little small and it's hard for me to get the details.
Well, what's that book about? Did I read that one?
I think you did. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I read it or not. Well, I think our dinner's gonna be ready soon.
Yeah.
So we'll have to go check on...
I don't have my glasses on and I'm not seeing well.
Yeah. Well, thanks for telling us all about World War II for you and all the other parts of your
Is
story.
that helpful enough for what you had to do?
I'm pretty sure.
We got it on here, so.
Yeah. Let's hope the mic was on.
It's on.
Do you come out and eat out here, or does she bring your food to you? Okay.